Today I'm going to make for you one of my favorite appetizers, a potato knish. Alright, so it might not be the most authentic or traditional potato knish because I'm taking a shortcut with puff pastry, but trust me, it's got all the elements of a potato knish that you're going to love. I've got one with regular mashed potatoes, one with sweet potatoes, and the one with mashed potatoes has a special ingredient in it. Pulverized mushrooms. You're not going to believe it. All right, potato knish is coming up, and I'm going to make it for you right now. Hey, welcome to Secret Kitchens of New Jersey. So today I'm making an appetizer for you. One of my favorite things that I've loved for most of my life, potato knishes. And you know, that's an absolute classic appetizer, a potato knish. Boy, if you don't know what a knish is, you better Google it right now. But I'm making it two different ways for you. I'm making one with sweet potatoes, and I'm making one with regular mashed potatoes. And what I did was I roasted up some potatoes in advance and I just mashed them. They don't really have any seasoning on them at this point. I'm melting a little bit of melted butter and a little salt and pepper. I'll get to that a little later. And I didn't make them into complete mush. I wanted to have a little bit of texture, and I want you to see, show this to the camera. You can see there's some texture in my potatoes. I don't want it to be like farina, okay? That's the way I like it. As a point of interest, I just used some regular sweet potatoes, and I used these red skin potatoes. Roasted them in the oven, nothing on them, for about 400 degrees, about 40 minutes, until I could pierce them easily with a knife, let them cool, and I peeled them. You make your mashed potatoes any way you want, but that's how I did mine. Now, another component of, well, let me say this. I'm not making my own pastry for my knishes because, you know, I'm just not a pastry person, but you do know of my love for puff pastry. So I'm taking a shortcut today, and I'm making my knishes with puff pastry. It's still going to be awesome. And of course, I'm going to put some interesting things on top of the puff pastry. Now, one thing about potato knishes that makes it, I think, a classic is lots of sauteed onions. I just cut these up before we went on camera because I was busy crying. You didn't need to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and really saute and get a good caramelization on these onions. I've got my frying pan over there. I'm going to do that off camera because I know I'm going to be doing some crying, and that's going to take a few minutes. So I want to get these onions really well caramelized before I mix them in with my potatoes. And I'll do that now, and I'll show you what it looks like when I come back, and then we'll get on to the assembly step. Okay, we're back, and I've got the onions very well sauteed. I want to show that to the camera. Nicely caramelized, because as one of my most favorite chefs, Anne Burrell, says, brown food is good. And don't you forget it. So these are nicely browned, and I'm just going to divide them between the regular potatoes and the sweet potatoes. I used, I'm going to say, 2 medium-sized yellow, just regular yellow onions. Let's just get this out of our way. There's nothing like a deep sink to hide a multitude of evil. All right, we're going to work on the yellow potatoes first. We're going to do that one first. Let's get this guy off to the side. All right, so I'm just really mixing in the onions. And this is probably, I don't know, this is probably more than I need to make one. I could honestly probably get 2 knishes out of these because, you know, I'm using puff pastry. We'll get to that in a moment. So I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter, and I'm talking like maybe roughly 2-3 tablespoons of butter to my white potatoes, because, you know, I feel like white potatoes need a little love. And then, of course, we got to add some salt and pepper. If you want to use other seasonings, you can certainly do that. But I will tell you that on the outside of this particular knish, we are going to use some Everything Bagel Seasoning, because you know about my love for that too. And we're going to have one other ingredient in here. Now, Chef Umberto was on with me, and he made mushroom risotto. And the most incredible thing that he did was that he took dried mushrooms and he pulverized them in his coffee grinder. I did the same. So I am going to add a good tablespoon of pulverized mushroom to this. Maybe even a little more. Because we're gonna, I just think it's gonna add incredible flavor. Oh, the smell of it right now is awesome. All right, so let me get this mixed up. I feel like there's a lot of things you can do with these pulverized mushrooms, so you ought to do that if you haven't done it. Okay, so this is my mixture of, this is my white potatoes, salt and pepper, onions, and some of this pulverized mushroom, okay? So let's assemble our first knish. All right, so I'm gonna put potato right down the middle. It smells delicious right now, I'll tell you that. And I'm being super generous with the potato, but of course not so generous, not so crazy that it, you know, that it comes out the other end. That won't, that's not gonna work. We don't want this to fall apart. That little extra bit of butter on the potato is really helping to keep it together. It smells fantastic, by the way. All right, and I'm gonna use but mine is sticking, that's okay. Just pry it gently away. No big deal, no big deal. Do the same thing on this side. All right, this one didn't stick as much. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of pinch the edges because I just want to keep, I don't want it to burst apart on me. All right, so let me get it right on my sheet pan. All right, so some egg wash, which is just one beaten egg, a little bit of water. You know what I didn't do? I wanted to have the seam on the bottom for aesthetic purposes, so I'm just turning this over. Easy enough to do, no big deal. All right, again, let's get the egg wash on this side, not the other side. The egg wash just makes it look beautiful, and it's going to allow the Everything Bagel Seasoning to adhere to this. If you don't like Everything Bagel Seasoning, don't use it, but how can you not? And on my other one, I'm going to use something else, but this one is going to have the Everything Bagel Seasoning. All right, so this one is ready for the oven. My oven, again, we're going with the package directions, and my oven, I believe it's 425, so I'm going to preheat my oven right now. And let me get my other puff pastry out, and I'll show you what we're going to do with this one, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I put that other one aside, so now I'm mixing up my sweet potato with the onions, again, already looking awesome. And let's add some salt and pepper to taste. And if you watched my video on salt, you know when I say salt, I mean kosher salt. When I say kosher salt, I mean diamond crystal. All right, let's just mix this up. All right, so same situation. We're going to do this one a little bit different, just for the fun of it. All right, so again, we're going to put our potato mixture in the middle. Again, I'm going to have extra here, so I could probably make 2 of these, but we're just going to do 1 right now. All right, so this is molded nicely. So what I want to do, let me get my pizza cutter. I'm going to cut some strips here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that this is necessary. All right, so the first one is going to come over like this, kind of overlapping these a little bit. Again, we're just going to make it look a little pretty, a little different. Oh, I don't think I cut mine evenly, but that's okay. It's still going to look pretty awesome. Pinch this together, kind of tuck it under, because in this case, we do want this to be on the top. Okay, so once again, egg wash across the top. And this one, we're not going to use Everything Bagel Seasoning. We're going to do it a little bit differently. Now, knishes can have many different kinds of fillings in them. They can have a meat filling. They can have a vegetable filling. In my case, I'm doing a potato filling. Tell me in the comments, what kind of filling would you put in a knish that you make? Have you ever made knishes? But using the puff pastry, I just feel like it makes it very, very simple. And it doesn't take away from any of the deliciousness. Now on this one, I'm going to use some pepper and some flaky sea salt, which I'm just going to kind of crush. And flaky sea salt is going to give us a nice punch of saltiness, and we're going to get that nice texture, that nice crunch of the salt. I love this as a way to finish something savory off, okay? Or even something sweet. Okay, so that's that. All right, so these are going to go in my oven, and these are going to go in the oven, both of these, roughly 20 minutes. And of course, I'm going to check it after 20 minutes, and we'll see how we're doing, if it needs any more time. All right, they just came out of the oven. They're screaming hot. They've got to cool down before I can even cut into them, and I'll show you what that looks like. But you know what? Jim, our cameraman, made an observation to me that the knishes you might get in the store are not nearly as big and packed as this. That's fine. These are our knishes. This is our world, all right? You make them as big or as small as you want to. Are these 100% authentic knishes? Probably not, because we're using puff pastry. But we've got all the authentic flavors of the knish, and it's going to be delicious. So who says it has to be authentic? All right, listen, we're going to let these cool for a couple of minutes before I can cut into them, and I'll show you what they look like when I get them plated. All right, they're finally ready. They cooled down enough so I could cut them. A little hint, I cut them with a serrated knife. They were in the oven about 22 minutes in total. So, you know, everyone's oven is different, so I checked them after 15 minutes and I gave them a little more. So this is the one with the potatoes and the pulverized mushrooms. And this is the one with the sweet potatoes. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Here, I'm going to take this little end piece right here. Then I'll take a middle piece, because they both look good. Now, this is something that you could make ahead of time and always heat it up if you want to. All right, let's see. This is the sweet potato one. You get that burst of flaky sea salt, that crunch, and of course the onions and the potato. Oh, it's delicious. This would make a great appetizer. Serve it with a salad, have a glass of wine. It's delicious. Now, traditionally in my family, for the ones with the mashed potatoes, we serve it with some mustard. So I've got some mustard here for dipping. This is Dijon mustard. You use any mustard you like. It's delicious. What can I say? Absolutely delicious. The potatoes and the caramelized onions, it all comes together in this beautiful crust. Try this. I think you're going to love it. I think your family's going to love it. A knish can be filled with anything you want, basically. If you're very adventurous, go for it and make the pastry. But I love the idea of using puff pastry, all right? Please like and subscribe. I appreciate you watching. You keep me inspired. See you next time on Secret Kitchens of New Jersey. Bye, everyone.